When I first saw them, there were 5 girls, 2 came in on rollerblades, straight down the corridors of the office, really in your face, we know it all, we've seen it all, that type of attitude. And I can so remember sitting there like this with my arms folded, going, go on then, impress me, come on then. Because at the time I'd worked with lots of artists, Kylie M people, Take That, and they absolutely blew me away. They were fantastic, they got up on the desks and they were so different and so refreshing. I thought, God, these girls have really, really got something special. And you just knew. As soon as you met them, you just knew. I can honestly say that Smash Hits had nothing to do with the Spice Girls at the beginning. They were a nightmare. They honestly didn't see it. They thought that girls wouldn't buy girls. It would put them off. Boy bands, fine. Male artists, fine. Solo female artists, fine. But girl groups, they were too feisty, they were too in your face.
This error in judgment cost the magazine dearly, leaving its new competitor Top of the Pops magazine not only free to champion the Spice Girls, it even got to christen them.
There's a piece in Smash Hits, a really old Smash Hits magazine, when they interviewed Fuzzbox. And the girls from Fuzzbox said, oh, we've got our own Smash Hits names that we want you to call us by. And that was where the idea to do the Spice Girls names came from. And I thought, right, we're going to give them our own Top of the Pops names. Sporty Spice was Scouse Spice for a minute, and Jerry was nearly Saucy Spice. And it just sort of just came out. It was just really straightforward. It happened in like seconds.
The Spice Girls broke the mould. I mean, there hadn't ever been and may never be again. I mean, everyone, you know, jokes about girl power and all this sort of... But all of a sudden there was this teenage bunch of wild girls who just suddenly took on the world and had that ability and that real energy. I mean, they had a fantastic energy level. I mean, they deserve all their success.
It's hard to comprehend that, you know, we're a phenomenon.
If you think about it, it's pretty freaky, isn't it? The whole thing is very friggin' freaky.
The United States were actually the last territory to come on board. And I think in America they loved the girls because they were feisty, they were ballsy, they were rude. And, you know, people just weren't used to that. They might have been used to it from a rock and roll band, but not from a pop girl group from England, you know.
The Spice Girls had an extraordinary working class quality about them, and they may not have been, but they came across like a bunch of scrubs or a bunch of char ladies. And I really think, despite the fact they'd be offended by saying that, that's what it was. Americans hadn't seen 5 sort of scrubby girls like this come over strong.
People still look at me open-mouthed when I say, you know, they sold 38 million records, you know, in such a short space of time. I mean, everyone would like to aim to do that.
They was the biggest girl group on the planet. I mean, they sold millions of records all around the world, and I take my hat off to them.
That's all stuff that we still would love to achieve, and we'd love goals that we still would like to reach. So we do look up to them.
I think the Spice Girls have changed a lot. They've opened so many doors.
Yeah, they have opened a lot of doors for individuality as well. Even, like, with the whole race issue as well. I think they opened a lot of doors for that.
The whole market just changed at that time. People that had probably never bought a record before, or maybe hadn't bought a record for 10 years, suddenly were walking back into record shops. If you were 6 years old, at one point you were probably going into Woolworths and spending your pocket money in the games section or the sweets section, and all of a sudden you were now like wanting to buy the Spice Girls single. And for the first time you were going into record shops.
I would much rather a 3, 4, 5 or 6-year-old listen to music, dance to music, sang along to music than perhaps play a computer game. And I think people can be a bit snobby. If a youngster gets into music at a very young age, they will continue throughout their life.
The targeting of the very young, started by Spice Girls, was a pretty dark time for pop music, I think. It was a pretty horrible period. You know, you had S Club 7 doing it, going even younger. I mean, S Club Juniors, don't even get me started. Because if pop just ends up as this pre-teen thing, you know, it's a real shame, because pop is something which adults should enjoy as well.
Whereas in the 80s, members of Duran Duran or whatever, they got older sisters or brothers. Now, the kids themselves are not that much older than the kids they're aiming at, really. I mean, back in the 80s, you had these pop stars that could aspire to be, and you don't really get that now.
Today, Atomic Kitten are being shot and interviewed for a glossy Smash Hits centre spread. It's quite a circus. In 2003, the British pop industry is a carefully choreographed conspiracy of managers and publicists, pluggers and stylists. It wasn't always like this.
the early days, we used to just go down the market, buy some fabric and make our own matching outfits.
My grandmother's. We'd actually be in the studio knitting squares to sew together to make a little tank top. I doubt you'll find a Tom and Kitten doing that. I imagine it's changed a lot. I imagine it's changed very much. Everyone seems very, very professional now.
You know, they do all their groundwork at stage school. They all look the same. There's no kind of individuality. They've all got straight hair and jeans, that's it.
Look at me. I can do it.
You're way too old. Oh, yeah.
Today there are many more pop stars than ever before, with only a tiny few lasting longer than their pre-allocated 15 seconds of fame.
When I came onto, onto the scene, I guess, in Europe, and I was only 15, and I think more or less we were so in our own world, we were just having fun together. It wasn't until a couple years after that that I really saw what the business was about and how scary it was and how cutthroat, all of that is.
Bands like come and go, and if you're not careful, you could be one of those next year or next month. It's hard to say where you'll be in like 3 years, never mind 10 years.
It is actually a proper dirty industry and people don't realise it.
I think the record companies are fundamentally fucked up. They're putting too much pressure on an artist to deliver chart results too quickly. And it gets to a stage where, with bands like Westlife, every single has to be a #1. Well, that is a preposterous situation to have got ourselves into.
I had my first top 10 hit after 5 years of making music, and everybody was chuffed, and we had some champagne and celebrated. But I heard somebody talking on the radio the other day saying, another disastrous week for One Tree Boys because they were only at #2. Imagine that kind of pressure where it's a disaster if you don't make #1. And that would certainly not be a world I'd want to live in.
When I first started getting into the whole boy band thing, to be honest with you, I pretty much do anything, well, sort of anything. Because it's just like, there's something that you wanted so bad, and you get an opportunity to do it, and you're gonna go for it, really.
We were known as I suppose, the bad boys of pop, which is always great, to be a bad boy in anything. When we came out, all the bands that were around, there was like 911, Boyzone, they were all still adamant that they were virgins, and that they never drank, and that they were this and that. And we used to read it going, look, you're 21 years of age, that's so unbelievable. And we were like, let's just be us, Yeah, we do have a drink. Yeah, if I've got a girlfriend, I've got a girlfriend, I'm a normal 20-year-old lad,
If any girl dares to go out with a famous boy pop star, the fans of these boy bands are vicious. Billie, when she first came through, was popular, but she started going out with Richie from Five, who was one of their favourites, so they all wanted to hate her.
I've got to say, it was really hard for Billie, as far as bitching us from girls went. I was shocked at times. On the Smash Hits poll winners party, she was just getting heckled and booed.
The kids booed her like mad in that arena. I was like really shocked. She walked off stage and cried her eyes out.
That must have been so hard for her, And I did, I tried to do my best to stand up and say, look, girls, you're being really pathetic about this, We're just a boyfriend and girlfriends, it's perfectly normal. You all have boyfriends and girlfriends, why can't we? So yeah, it was quite hard on her at the time.
If you do well, like Westlife have, you've got 3 good years at it. But there will always be someone coming around and snapping at your heels.
Pop stars are like bosses. There is always another one coming along in a minute.
When we first started out, when we were seeing bands like Westlife on the circuit, oh my God, it's Westlife, we were like the new boys. Now we have bands going, oh my God, it's Blue.
Yeah, it's mad.
And that's weird, because it's like, we've only been doing it for 2 years. And there's so many bands now. When we started off, aren't there anymore. You had Steps, Five, A1, there was loads of bands around, and now they're not there. Everyone's just sort of like splitting up.
I strapped myself to a rocket when I was 17, and it dropped me off September 2001. It was a mental ride, and it was real fun, and then it was like really quiet.
You live a lifestyle where somebody's telling you when you're eating, when you got time off, everything, your life is planned out for you, and then when that's gone away, like I went through the stage of it was just pure daytime TV, countdown, cereal, just didn't even get out of my pajamas, man. Just go from my bed to my couch for like solid there for about 8 hours and then go back to bed and then get on and do the same again. And it was kind of boring, to be honest with you, but you kind of need it. It was quite fun for a little bit.
I don't think pop's as fun as it used to be. Like, I remember looking at people like Bananarama. Pop music was just fun back then.
It was on ITV1. Nowadays, it's probably the first place. That's terrifying.
To be able to be in a studio and create music, but doing it for people, you know, where they're sternly watching you and, you know, waiting for you to make mistakes so they can tell you. I don't know. I don't think I can handle that kind of pressure. I haven't heard him sing yet, so I don't understand where he gets to judge everyone.
It's become too much of a business. It's so premeditated, and whoever told Simon Cowell he had ears can't even dress properly, for God's sake. People that should be selling fruit and veg are talking to you about art, and music is art.
The reason the pop idol stuff is bad is because it gives kids the impression that that's what you do. I noticed one of my nieces asked me about that, and Gareth Gates and everything, and I said, you know, it's not about that.
It's awful, really, but then it's good for the kids that win the competition, isn't it? Because they get to live like a pop star for a year until their record goes in at number 10, and then they're homeless and destitute under a cardboard box in Charing Cross Road.
25 years after Smash Hit started its crusade to cover the minutiae of pop stars' lives, it has surely succeeded beyond its wildest dreams. Pop star coverage is everywhere. But do today's pop stars have anything to say?
Stars now have media training. They're much more savvy to what they should or shouldn't be saying in the press. You know, you look back and stars just said what they thought. They just came out with it, which is why you had perhaps more rebellious stars in the charts. Because at the end of the day, it's all very, very controlled now.
The thing that is really difficult with interviewing pop stars is the fact that they're either really boring or lying to you, basically. And getting at bands is extremely difficult because, you know, why would you, if you're a manager or a record label, want something about getting really pissed and going out and shagging groupies to be in the press?
Nowadays, you can't get close to the pop stars. You know, for instance, when Gareth Gates emerged as a new pop star, it was almost as though you were dealing with Elvis as PRs. You know, we were told he had to be shot by a certain photographer. You know, we should concentrate on image, not words. And we had to negotiate like a Beatles-sized contract just to get near him.
It's much harder for magazines to get genuine revelation out of people now. I mean, mainly because of the number of interviews these people do. I mean, their interviews will be in the thousands. People, old Smash Hits editors, talk fondly of nipping round to Sting's house, you know, for a cup of tea, and it's absolutely not going to happen these days.
Where Smash Hits was a little island on its own, a strange little world on its own where you could retreat to. Now, if you're 15, your dad probably knows as much about Coldplay as you do. Not much fun in it.
So if, by trying to please everyone, pop's no longer much fun, has it reached the end of the road?
Pop isn't dead. Pop is just a horrible, bloody mess in the motorway at the moment. It's just, it needs, like, scraping up off the floor and cleaning up a bit.
The great engine of British popular music was boredom, was people sitting in the rooms on a wet Tuesday thinking, there's nothing to do. I have to just fill my head with some alternative to this numbing tedium of you know, British suburban life. It's not like that anymore. They go to the mall. They watch multi-channel television. They're never cut off from a set of headphones. They're never bored. They're constantly distracted.
There's always room for another music revolution. The conventional wisdom is always that the revolutions happen when there's a recession, you know, like punk in '76, acid house in '88. So hopefully, as the whole world tumbles into kind of disaster and poverty, something really exciting will be, you know, just around the corner. But, you know, it's always when you least expect it.
I think there's two camps of teenagers. I think there's the teenagers who are just kind of like brainwashed and accept just the commercial junk that they are fed. And then I think there's the ones that they look at it and they just think this is rubbish, and they're looking for other things. You see the teenagers at a Peaches gig. They just want something that's a bit different and saying something and is actually real rather than styled by some Ponzi stylist.
I mean, a few months ago I was saying kill the young. I was thinking, my God, all youth culture have got is covers of the Doors, Light My Fire. And I hope that when I reached a certain age, youth culture would shock me in the way that I'd shocked older people, and they weren't. They were making me absolutely fall to sleep. But now I've seen some things that they're waking me up, and I'm thinking, oh, that's really interesting.
Oh God, music has always got a healthy future, you know. I mean, people worry about Pop Idol, they worry about the fact that things are being downloaded from the internet, but it's music, you know. People like making music.
It's not going to stop. Music is an incredibly accessible and fantastic art form. It can lift you up, it can make you cry while you're doing the washing up. It's amazing. Music is fantastic, so it's not going to die. Pop music will never die. It doesn't matter if there's a load of rubbish out there, and some of it isn't rubbish. That Girls Aloud single was great.
I think that the big change of pop culture came when the tabloids began to pick up on it, and all of them moved to having their celebrity columns and their kind of entertainment spreads. People want to read about them daily. People want them to change daily. People want new things about them daily. They want their stories to unfold the way soaps unfold. And I think that fundamentally changed pop music from being a weekly culture to a daily culture. It had to be around you, had to be with you every day. It was, to some extent, the kind of heroin of the masses. It was that one thing that we absolutely needed as a daily dose so that we'd get through the rest of the dreary life.
Now what we're finding is the world of pop music, or the world of celebrity, is the thing that we all have in common. You can get a load of people at a dinner party, meeting for the first time, different age groups, different nationalities, different classes, different jobs, but the one thing they'll all have in common was, should Will or Gareth have won Pop Idol? Will! What do you think of those two Russian lesbians? For a lot of us, pop music and celebrity is a common language.
What's changed is that everything became a pop magazine. The Daily Mirror became a pop magazine. All telly is pop telly. You know, you can't escape pop music, pop culture. The fact is there was a war between pop and the adult world, and pop won. But now pop's got the problem of ruling.
What would I rather see on 10 o'clock news? I'd rather see Carly's arse than Saddam Hussein's gob. What, you know, the media has done, it literally, it deals in frippery. So you might as well get a pop star who talks a load of shit most of the time anyway and do it, because at least you know it's a load of shit and it's entertaining.